you think about, okay, well, how do I build this presence where people recognize me as that expert? It doesn't start with the marketing. It starts with the connections, in my opinion. It starts with being visible at business networking groups, local organizations. It's being present in your local place so people know you exist.
Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. Garrett Fry here with Matt Benelli. We are super excited to spend more time with you today. Thank you for joining us as always. And Matt, you got a topic you brought to the table today about being the local voice, bring the power of the local voice and being involved in your local community, your local environment. So Matt, jump in with this. I'm excited to go down this path.
Yeah, me too. And good morning, man. And good morning, everybody, or afternoon, or wherever you're listening to us. You know, one thing that crossed my mind is a lot of, and this comes from the things that I do in the marketing space and everything, is there's great marketing ideas out there, but the one advantage that a local business and a realtor definitely has is the power of the local voice that they can have in their community to blow up their business, because their business is hyper local. And I think that can create an incredible foundation of repeat and referral business, but it also depends on how you craft it. Because here is the thing that I was thinking about when I was going through this idea is, what is the perception of the consumer of certain businesses, and in particular, the real estate agent? Well, the consumer's perception of a real estate agent is that they are hyper local, and sometimes hyper local, like, well, that's the agent for that neighborhood. Not the agent for that city, the agent for that neighborhood. And so that can create a constraint or an opportunity depending on how you are showing up to present your power of that local voice and your business. So that's why I'm excited to talk about this, because I think it is coming off of the 45-day rule. There are probably consistent actions that we can take to build this power of the local voice.
Well, and I think the local voice too, Matt, is like, I a lot of people I work with that I help them focus on really understanding the numbers locally. They know national stuff going on. They kind of grasp towards things. And it's like, well, how much do you know of what's happening right in your backyard? Like, when was the last time you did the numbers? And they'll say things like, well, my broker does them for me, or things like that. I'm like, no, do them yourself. Like, pick neighborhoods, pick specific areas that you can get hyper localized in, because I think it's not a negative thing also to be hyper local. Like, when I look at, like, I think like there's a lot of different ways that I hope people can walk away from this as saying, like, what is my voice and what is my expertise? And I'm watching a lot of agents right now that, as they're gathering this local data and they're really diving into it, they're like, oh my gosh, like, I'm seeing the pulse now. I'm seeing how things are working. I'm seeing this deeper understanding. And they're saying, I have better information to share with my people. I have a better way to give them more understanding of what's really going on. And I think, as running a business that is known as a localized business, when people see you as a real estate agent, Matt, you're a licensed realtor. I don't look at you as a realtor outside of your area. I don't think of you. That's Charleston real estate agent. That's what we're working with here. And so I think that, one is, you have that ability of doing that, but we also have this ability as realtors, if we want to open up our world around us, there are opportunities to take that as big as we want. The real estate connection and the where you can provide value is massive. And so I think this is fun to go down this path of what is your voice, how localized are you, and how do people see you?
Yeah. And you can take, however you want to look at this, you can take the word local and replace it with niche, if that makes it easier for you to, because one thing I see a lot of agents do is they try to generalize themselves. Well, I don't want people to think that I don't do this or this. And so they don't lean into anything and they become general, which leaves, here's the thing, being general does not allow people to see you as general necessarily. It allows them to form their own perspective of where you are localized, where you are niched. And if you're not controlling that voice and that narrative, you're just leaving it up to other people to decide for you. Like, okay, what type of agent are you? Where I've seen incredible success when people go like, no, I am the luxury agent. I am this neighborhood agent. And all of a sudden they start to get that business. And how many times, Garrett, has an agent asked you, I really want to develop a foothold in my neighborhood. I really want to get in there and do it. And usually their initial thing is like, so I'm just going to send more postcards to my neighborhood, which big fan of, don't get me wrong. But like, all they do is like, well, because I don't want people to think I only sell there, but I really want to build my business there.
Well, and I think that when you can narrow down on having a niche, having an expertise, having something that you're really good at, um, it allows people to have more confidence in being able to refer you, being able to use you. They have that, okay, I know that this person is the expert in this marketplace over here. They're the expert in this price range. They're the expert in investing. They're the expert in commercial. They're the expert in, you can narrow these things down so that you can really give people the confidence to be able to use you, but also refer you. One of my biggest beliefs is there's this incredible database of referral business out here, but referrals are an interesting thing. They can only be given with high trust. And high trust comes from people being able to understand that you have taken the time to be an expert, to know something to the level that they're like, I don't need to worry about that. I can give that to this person. For instance, I just recently had one of my investment properties have the AC go out on it. I have one person I called, one person in that market. This is not my local market. One person I called and I said, I need somebody. Who do you have for me? Instantly, she was like, this is the person you're going to call. Here's their name. Carl's the owner of it. They got you taken care of. Within a moment, I got a phone call back going, I got you taken care of. This is also my daughter's house too, that she's living in. No AC. How fast can we get somebody there? Boom. I get a phone call from my daughter a couple hours later that says, everything's fixed. We're good. Thanks. There's a couple things here that allowed me to go, okay, who is this local expert that I have that I was able to call? Will I call them again for expert advice in the future? Oh my gosh. Like, she took care of me so well, but she also set herself up saying, your daughter is my top priority. I know I sold you this house, but your daughter is one of my top priorities. She said to me, I basically bring in all the children of the people that I work with here, and I make sure I take care of them because I know their parents live other places. And she's like, whatever you need, you call. It allowed me to pick the phone up so fast. Jody Warner is her name. She's in College Station. To get Jody on the phone because she is my local expert. She has a local voice. And man, has she not steered me wrong when it comes to me finding the right people around me that I need help with. And I think that we need to open ourselves up, just like Jody did, of like, here's what my value is. Here's what my resources are. Because she is like, when Sarah said, who do we call? Jody's name was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I'm not messing around. I'm not going to go to the yellow pages. I'm not going to go look for other stuff. She was my answer.
And that's the power of being connected locally, right?
Yes.
And so you think about, okay, well, how do I build my local voice to build this presence where people do recognize me as that expert? And there's a lot of things that you can do, but it doesn't start with the marketing. It starts with the connections, in my opinion. It starts with going and being visible at, if it's business networking groups, if it's local organizations, if it's the PTA meeting, it's being present in your local place so people know you exist. And the reason why I highlight that versus marketing is because I see so many agents try to focus on their marketing first, and they forget that, wait, this business really is about relationships. The marketing is going to help reinforce those relationships, allow people to know that you are always there as their expert. But until you make that initial connection, it's going to be really hard to use your marketing to reinforce your value when they haven't connected with you yet. So the power of the local voice starts by getting local. Where can you go? Like coming back to the neighborhood thing, right? And even Jody's example of being like, I've taken all these kids in College Station, right?
Yep.
You know, right here in Texas, this is my thing. Is if you want to be that neighborhood expert, well, how often are you showing up in your neighborhood? That's the first question I ask people when they're saying, I want to take over my neighborhood. I'm like, great. How many people do you know? How many people know you? And how often are you out and about making sure that you're shaking hands, talking to people, and making them making your presence known among all of them, right?
Well, so like an example, so my daughter right now is getting her real estate license. And as she's going down the process of doing this, we had and we might have talked about this a little bit on the podcast already, Matt, but we have a huge development that is projected to go out behind our household. We have open space behind us right now. At least we call it open space. It is somebody's land that they have a grand vision for down the road. And it actually, I'm for it. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's a really cool project that they're talking about building out here. But we got our letter in the mail, and the letter said there's going to be, the town here. There's a hearing going on. Everybody's going to get together. We need to approve these plans to be pushed out farther. And I'm like, I want to go down and see what it's about. But I also got my daughter who's getting her real estate license, and I said, Jocelyn, we need to go and do this. We need to go. You're coming with me. And it was interesting to be able to talk to her about it and saying, like, these meetings are going to come up all the time about city planning and what's going on and new developments that are happening and new construction projects that are going in, shopping centers they're talking about putting in, schools are talking about putting in. Be at these meetings. These meetings happen all the time. They announce them publicly, like, come down here. Because one of the things I wanted her to see is we sat in that room, and there was probably about 15 people that showed up. But it was really interesting to look around, and I said, pay attention to who's here. And so we started to look at all the people that were the city council members that were all sitting up there. So we started to talk about them and their kind of roles. And then it was interesting to see who showed up and who was in that room. And it was fun for her to see that some of these people were local citizens that were concerned, people that lived on our street. We drove around afterwards to all the surrounding roads, and they're like, oh, this person was on Thompson Lane. This was the person that was in the meeting that was concerned about how their property backs up to this. So if we wanted to, we could have met that person while we were there. We could have been, hey, we're a local homeowner also. My daughter, if she was a real estate agent, could have, started a conversation, or she didn't need to lead with, hey, I'm a realtor. I know what you guys are thinking, not that. But she could have built these relationships in an environment that all has to do with real estate, get to know these local people. And I was telling her, there's developers and builders that are going to be showing up to this meeting also because they just want to see how this is going to play out. They've got developments and other stuff going on the other side of the town. And as they watch this and how this plays out, this lets them know what they need to do with their developments over here. These are the places you need to be involved with, as well as farmers markets and all that kind of stuff. But it was interesting to see her eyes open to, here I am as a realtor, but if I really want to be an expert in what's going on, like, there are things that are automatically going in your town. They're automatically happening that if you choose to show up for, not only are you hyper connected with the players of the town, but you're also a wealth of knowledge. She has more information now of all the fire roads that they're talking about putting in, how many homes are going to be in this development out here, when this thing was initially started, how long and how many times it's been bumped out and pushed to the next level. So when our local neighbors, because we actually talked to one, is freaking out about this development, she literally looked at him as a 20-year-old who doesn't have her license yet and going like, oh yeah, they were just trying to get it reapproved. It's been reapproved 3 times. It keeps getting bumped out. The likelihood of it getting started in the next 6 months is, and he's like, well, I'm thinking about living here for about another year. She's like, it's probably not going to affect you. And I'm like,
and that right there too.
That came to real estate too.
Oh, really? Where are you thinking of going a year from now?
And we talked about that. And he's like, I'm going to be retiring. He goes, I think I'm calling it quits. And he goes, this has been a great house for me. And he literally lives right across from where the fire road is potentially going to be going in. And it was one of those, like, you could see the wheels in his mind going, maybe I want to go before this thing goes in. But it allows you to open up and have these incredible conversations with people when you are the local expert and you're localized.
And how many realtors were at that meeting, Garrett?
I didn't see any.
If you want to be the local guy or gal, like, these are the opportunities that are sitting right in front of you that a lot of times we slough off as, well, that's not work. That's not, I need to be doing something else to grow my business right now. I need to be focused on this. Like, no, that is work. That is growing your business. The opportunities and connections that can come out of attending something like that regularly can create an incredible impact on your business, because now you become, like, I could see that growing into like, oh yeah, well, Jocelyn, our local realtor around here, she's attending this. Ask her. I bet she knows about that fire road that's going in.
two of our great friends that we've known forever that see Jocelyn as the little girl that used to come over and play and hang out and ran track with their daughter and all this stuff, they got a chance to see Jocelyn potentially as a real estate agent that takes her job seriously and is interested in what's happening with the community. Because while they're jumping up and standing in front of all the people of the city and saying, hey, we want a new environmental report done on this whole land out here, Jocelyn's sitting there looking up was it an EPA, Environmental Protection
Agency? Yeah.
No, but it was a I can't the
some California thing that's maybe a little bit more involved, probably.
They're protecting the spotted owl is what they want to know about. They're making sure the spotted owl is safe is what they're doing. They're asking for a new report, and she quickly is looking up the report and wondering what this is. And we had a great discussion about it. They now get a chance to see her as somebody that is not either a new agent, the kid that they used to know that lives down the street. Like, they get a different understanding and respect for her. And I think that all this stuff builds on itself as you become a local expert. And as we said, Matt, the opportunities are all around us.
And I don't think they take a whole lot of time if you planned it out. Now, it is hard to sometimes these meetings are kind of hidden. And there was supposed to be some local meeting here that my wife was going to attend because she's working to meet local developers and stuff in her business. And like the meeting was like super, super top secret. And then I guess didn't actually happen. And it was like, nope, why didn't anybody tell us about that? Well, that's a whole nother story. But interesting, even just watching her all of a sudden getting involved in the local chamber of commerce and things like this. All of a sudden, her presence in the local market went from zero, non-existent, to, oh, Jen's the hospitality designer here, right? Among some people, like a few business owners, she's the hospitality designer, right? Which is crazy, going from only a few months of her attending these meetings and getting to know these people to build that identity by just showing up and having that power of a local voice among the community. And so a couple of things too is you can look at the Facebook groups, the next door groups, if you have that in your area. People are asking questions all the time. If you just get involved in these conversations, all of a sudden your presence grows and your expertise grows if you then take the questions that people have and go research them. People ask questions all the time about, well, how does this happen? How does this happen? Then go and reach out to the local government if necessary. Another example I have with this is our city council member. I shouldn't say ours. I don't live in the city, but the gentleman who's the council for this part of the city that's out here where I live, I was talking with him at a meeting and he was explaining like, yeah, here's what goes into the thought process of installing a curfew when there is a storm coming in and we're worried about flooding. I'm like, that's awesome. Do you tell people about that? Well, that's a good idea. I'm like, yeah, maybe tell people what goes into it instead of just saying, this is what we're doing. And then afterwards saying, here's why we did it. Why don't you tell people up front? He's like, that's a great idea. What if you, as a local business owner, a realtor, or someone who's trying to grow your presence in local voice, you said, hey, I had a conversation with Jim and here's what he told me about the process of this. And you're like, oh, wow, you knew that? The power of a local voice. It allows you to build presence and knowledge, which people then recognize you as a local leader, which then will translate into more business. That's the key.
This leads me to I have a physical therapist that I just started to go to. I tweaked my arm here, Matt, pretty good actually. And I love it when they say, what is your overall goal of wanting to do physical therapy? I'm like, to use my arm fully again, like that. Let's just start there. Like, just to not have to think about my arm every single time I lift something up. But it was interesting is that we sat down and we started talking, and she's newer to the area. She's been there for less than a year. And as she started to talk about, she mentioned a BNI group that she's involved with. I said, how do you like your BNI group? And she said, it's 70 members strong right now.
Wow.
I said, you got 70 members in the BNI group here locally? And she goes, well, we're only one chapter of BNI that's here. She goes, there's about 3 or 4. And we started talking about all of the connections that she has through the BNI group. And I said, how has that group worked for you personally? Like, what have you seen out of it? And she started talking about the relationships and the connections and the people. And she was right at the top of her head. She goes, we're looking for an electrician. We need a tire salesman. And she just started like, and I'm like, how many people even think that locally to all the moving parts of their town? Here's 70 different working entities of the town, from electricians to drywallers to general contractors to wheel salesmen. Like, she went down the list. And I think that, very much we get focused on being our real estate agent, building our database with the people that are thinking about buying, thinking about selling. This is our number one place. And we really have all these professionals that we're working hand in hand with out here. And whether it's a BNI or whether you build your own group of saying, okay, these are all my professional resources of town, so I can be the best to all of my people that need any help, like Jody Warner has her professional people. I don't need to go call the individuals. I can call this person directly and she can take care of me. And some might say, that's not her job as a real estate agent. She helps people buy and sell. You know what? She's my answer. And your job is to be the answer for people out there, that place that people can go to for knowledge, information, just like I'm hoping Jocelyn's going to be as she becomes a real estate agent. I want people calling her when there's anything going on in this town. They're like, you know what? Who do we call? Jocelyn. That's who we're going to call.
Yeah.
She's the answer for us. And that's who you want to be.
Another suggestion I'll have for people is, if you're thinking about the marketing side of the local voice, because people go, well, what about doing marketing to talk about local events and things like that? I think that's great. Get your source, though, from the people you connect with, because that's going to make that so much more powerful. And I don't want to discount the value of doing, general localized marketing and doing some research online and sharing that, because there's value there. But if you really want to step it up and you want to be the person, when people say, we just did the episode on people know so many realtors, right? If you want to be the one that people know, develop your local voice, develop it, because it's going to be so powerful. Go to meetings, shake hands, get to know other business owners, share the information that you and the knowledge that you gain with the other people around you. Be the neighborhood expert, be out there talking with people. I mean, if my next door neighbor wanted to get a real estate agent, he'd probably have all the listings in our neighborhood, because he's out walking every morning, talking to everyone. It's incredible. I'm like, Tony, ever thought about getting your real estate license, man? Because all the properties that go for sale in our neighborhood are not listed by a realtor that lives here.
Wow.
Interestingly enough.
I mean, Matt, we've watched it more often than not when there's that one person that's uber connected. I think about my friend Dave Jackson here, who lives in Reading. Dave, I have always told him, I'm like, dude, you should run for mayor at some point, because you are hyper connected. I went to lunch with him here the other day, and it was almost obnoxious. Like, next time I go to lunch with them, I'm gonna, can we have the booth in the back corner where nobody can see us? Because every single person that walked by was like, oh, Dave, what's happening? Hey, man, what's going on? Hey, how's that project? What are you working on right now? And I would be like, how do you know that guy? And he goes, oh, we used to do this together, and he's working on this project. He goes, you know all the banners that go all the way down the street that talk about all the concerts and all that stuff? We had those made up about 5 years ago, and now nobody knows where they're at, and they're trying to recreate them and put them back up. He goes, have you noticed it's all just like empty hangars right now? There's no signs on them. I'm like, dude, how much do you know about what's going on in this city? Like, he knew everything. And it's funny, he went and got his license he's a lender now in town. And when he got his license as working for the local mortgage place, I was like, dude, you're going to crush it. I'm like, you barely are going to have to try, and you are going to be so successful in this. The challenge that somebody like Dave has is getting people to see him in a different light, being able to transfer over what was he before to what is he now, and what is his useful value and purpose to me. Even though he's a great guy and he's super uber connected, if you don't see him in that way, it's hard to build that business up.
Yeah.
But it's one of those that once the message is created, like, this is the opportunity of being that local, being that connected, being that source for people, is that you're going to be successful whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just don't take the energy and put it in that direction, Matt. And it's missed. It's missed all the time. The opportunities that are right in front of every single one of you, though.
And a topic for another episode, but the marketing then allows you to showcase exactly what you were talking about. The new profession or the expertise, specifically what it is for your business, because the more connections you make, the easier it is to distribute then the marketing that highlights your value as your profession, whether that be a realtor or an attorney or whatever. So that is also kind of the great side effect of having a great local voice, is your marketing will actually work better.
Yeah.
It works way more in your favor. I mean, think about it. If you know somebody and you see an advertisement for their business, you are like really connected with it, right? One of my friends is running for our state house representative for our district. And whenever I see a yard sign or something, I'm like, oh, look, there's James's yard sign. Hey, look, there's this thing. And like, I'm more connected and more invested because I know who he is, because he spends the time to get to know me too, right?
Let me throw this one last thing at this, Matt, because I recently experienced this, and I'm not going to take this too far down the tracks. But so having that weird little element of personal connection, and it doesn't have to be huge, it just has to be a little bit of personal connection. There's a band called Social Distortion that I have listened to ever since I was a child. Like, I have listened to, it's been a huge part of my world. It's a staple in our household. Um, Most of you listening might know of the band Social Distortion. Some people call it Social D. Um, Mike Ness is the frontman and lead singer and lead guitarist of that group. Um, I could not have told you what Mike Ness looked like. I don't follow bands in that way. I like the music and
You
I know the
listen, you
music.
don't watch.
Yeah, I listen to it and I enjoy it and I know the sound. When the songs come on, I'm like, oh, this is great music. Um, I bumped into Mike Ness in the most random situation in front of my local grocery store. And there's a story I put on my Facebook page specifically about this weird event and how this all kind of came to be. And after about 15, 20 minutes of having this great conversation with this really amazing guy and his wife and just these people, that I was like sitting there going like, these are really amazing, nice people. All of a sudden that personal connection comes into life. Then all of a sudden we make the connection of who he is and what band he's with. And we're trying to figure out, what are you doing in Redding, California? But here's the interesting thing. Now that the relationship has been established, now that I know who Mike is, I have listened to Social Distortion more in the last week than I have probably in the last 3 years. It is like what I put on. There's certain songs that I'm locked into right now. And every single time I listen to one of those songs, I'm like, that is the nicest guy that nobody knows how nice he is and how cool he is and what he's about and where his heart's at. And the person that he's married to is amazing. And so I all of a sudden have this different energy attached to what he does. And so I think we have this happen in our businesses all the time, is that we're always just kind of going, realtor, realtor, realtor. I'm a realtor. I'm a realtor. And it's no different than having a band. And hey, listen to my music, listen to my music. And all of a sudden you meet one of the members and it's like, I have a new respect and a new connection. Can also go the other direction too, by the way.
It helped that Mike Ness actually turns out to be a really awesome human being. I mean, if he was an asshole, I don't think you'd be listening to the music as much right now.
And I think the interesting thing is most people are nice. Most people are good people.
Yeah.
And when you can bring that energy in, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now not only do I know what they do, I have this element of real person now attached to it, and everything gets raised up. And I watch this in business all the time is that we just push what it is that we do. We just push this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. But the personal connection isn't there. And then we're always kind of just below the surface, where if we can bring that personal element in, make the connections happen. And this is where we talk about getting localized, man. It's like we have all these our business is right here. It's in our backyard. It's our day-to-day world. It's at the grocery store. It's at the Chamber of Commerce meetings. It's all around us. Make the connections with people, because people will connect with you. And when they make the business relationship connection, it's pretty hard not to be successful.
And that's the crazy thing. Like, you are, as a realtor, like, your business is so hyper local. And even when you get down into the neighborhood thing, like, man, if you could list the homes in your neighborhood, think about the ease of your time, right? The value of being hyper local is incredible for the real estate business. And so take advantage of it. It's an amazing thing. Well, not to then pitch the things that we do, but if you do want to be surrounded by awesome people like Jody Warner, for example, you can come join our coaching program. We call it the 11 Circle. It's inside Life at 10 Tenths. If you want to just join our community and our app, the Life at 10 Tenths, for free, we have a light access in there too. But you can go to lifeat10tenths.com and explore the 11 Circle if that's something that you're interested in. We do some really cool stuff in there. You get access to Garrett and myself every single week. We do live coaching. So we're in there, and we do sometimes bring in guests. In fact, at the end of this month, we're in October when this goes live. At the end of this month, Dan Martell, the author of Buy Back Your Time, is going to come and do a Q&A with our coaching program members. And so that's going to be really cool. So if you want access to that, definitely come join us. It's going to be really, really, really cool. And we got other people in. We just had Eric Simon, the broke agent, in here. We've had really incredible Matthew Farrar. I mean, it goes down the line. So we hope to see you guys in there. We really appreciate you guys joining in on this podcast and listening. And if we could ask a favor, if you guys do get value out of this and you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the bell, share it with somebody. If you're listening on audio, just share the podcast with people. It helps us grow so we can impact more and more people. We're on a mission to truly help as many people as possible live at the pinnacle of their ability and purpose. And so anything you guys can do to help spread the word, we so appreciate it. And we love you guys for it.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you tons.